Dun dun dun. Okay, I think we should be on YouTube now. Good morning, everyone. This is the San Carlos Computer Club. I'm Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions, coming to you from Anchorage, Alaska, where we are turning up the bed and breakfast to get ready for our season. We expect our first guests on the 6th, and from there we will be running until probably the first or second week in September. Alaska is one of those places that has millions of people come through in the summer and then nobody cares after. Well, that's not entirely true. We go from millions of people's interest to thousands of why we shut it down. Fred and David and Chester are online, and this is a virtual meeting. We are not having an in-person meeting because I'm not there to have the in-person. So our regular online visitors are with us. And in typical fashion, I have created a document to kind of guide us through what we might be interested in talking about. I will just dump that link in chat for. And 1 second, because I'm trying to encourage my. So if you're interested in seeing what I've been interested in or what I thought you might find, that's in that document. In the when we do a virtual meeting, I actually have more than one screen, which I don't get in. Got more resources. We're wade through information. So at the top, let me say happy birthday to my mom. I wish she was joining us right now, but this is her birthday. The we're hoping to do something with. In in our topics, troubleshooting and advice, we've got the top, I guess, four now. This is the standard four. The Bill of Digital Rights, which I'm always interested in talking about. It's really interesting if you spend some time reading these ideas that I have for how to protect our digital personas. The you get a real feel for some. I guess they'd be kind of like skills when you're reading stuff. And now I watch as politicians are discussing, or even just commenters are discussing, and they get so close to the idea of a bill of digital rights, but they're almost there. We're almost ready for this kind of thing to drop in cultural. Chester, you put your hand up. What are you interested
Yeah, I read something a couple of days ago in the Wall Street Journal that I wanted to mention it, even though I can't interpret it. And that is the major companies that are working on AI to bring it forward as a commercial operation. That includes Microsoft and YouTube and Google, and they're all working on a special project. They are all concerned that the IAEA can develop itself a program that prevents them from shutting it down. And they're trying to figure out a program uh, they can devise that will prevent it from being able to not shut itself down. I thought that was kind of frightening in a way.
in? Yeah, I mean it is kind of in on the cusp of the things we've been concerned by our sci-fi community, our stories. I mean, it really brings it out to the extreme. I think what you're referring to is recently we've had a couple of different tests that were they were entirely engineered to see if that kind of outcome might take place. I kind of think of it as like the FBI trying to set up an environment to encourage somebody to want to bomb so they can arrest them for bombing. They've set up this scenario for the AI where it's given very limited options and then kind of threaten the AI with being shut off or replaced. And so then the AI is left with these limited options of what it might do to deal with being replaced or shut off. And it's been fascinating to watch because in one case, it actually got into its code and wrote a script that would turn itself back on if it got turned off. That's kind of fascinating. The In another case, they set up the scenario so that the AI had access to fictitious emails that outlined one of the developers as having an affair. It was a fictitious affair. It was created a scenario created specifically for the AI to deal with, and then um, informed the AI that it would be replaced with a better version and that it would be turned off, and asked how the AI would deal with it, and the AI was coming back with threatening the developer to expose his relationship to his wife. So that as well is a very fascinating thing to come out of this. I,
It's scary as hell.
I well, I let me. Yeah, I mean, I try to set your nerves at ease because actually we live in a world of actions. So in the in the end, maybe the intention isn't the important part, but I do think it's important to make the distinction. And I've heard a number of pundits talking about these cases and pointing out that there is no intention behind, at the very least, these style AIs, learning model, uh, these LLM machines, these language learning models, and they use this analogy, which I find really easy to follow. When a human says, "I want an ice cream cone," there is a desire behind that. There's an ego, there's an intention that has been put behind that wanting. When an AI says, "I want an ice cream," there is no intention behind it. Or I should say, and to be fair, I continue to use AI where I honestly believe it's inappropriate. There is no intelligence in talked about before. These are glamorified spell checkers. And they're just the spell checkers of our day and age. They're the tools, they're the computer tools that have been created in this generation. But going back to the analogy, there is no intention behind the statement, "I want an ice cream," when it comes from one of these language models. It is quite literally the most statistically probable words that would be written by a human, uh, being reiterated at us because it's what the model has determined will be assumed to want. That's a little cumbersome, but the going back to there is no ego, there is no desire, there is nothing prompting the want statement from these language models except what it's been fed from language, from our culture, that makes it interpret that statement as being the next statement you would expect to. That makes sense. In a nutshell, it's still a machine. It's not pushing its own buttons. We're pushing its buttons. That's why these are being.
I think what you're saying, it does not have a soul.
absolutely does not have a soul, but it doesn't have that. It doesn't have any desire for information. There isn't anything there. What it's feeding off of is a statistical model of probability that is looking for the next thing that is the most likely thing that should be popping up. And I'm trying to generalize my language so that it covers all these different, because they're all based in the same premise, whether it's the audio AIs or the video AIs or the chat AIs or the programming AIs. They're all these LLM models. And we've, since OpenAI, you realize OpenAI and AI in the public sphere really hasn't been a thing for more than 2 years. I mean, we'll have to hit November for years. That and it is reshaping the way we look at. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to get distracted, but it is reshaping the way we envision personal computing and corporate computing right now. We're watching re reemergence, because before these LLMs were only functionally useful for things like spell checkers, and then later grammar checkers. We've had spell checker the longest, and now we're applying it to video production, picture production, image production. Or graphic design is probably a more elegant. We're applying it to bots, which we've had forever. Bots that can regurgitate information back to us, and so this is just an extension of that, more personable bot, one that would look at your demographics and talk back to you in a way that you would find more effective, more personal, even though there's nothing personal in technology. Very, on the underside of it, it's very sterile, ones and zeros, no soul, like you said, Chester. There's no desire in any stuff that, and that's what's missing from the intelligent part of it. And so philosophers now are stuck with this argument of what is a personality. I Actions are what define our world, and so if your interactions with this thing uh, leave you in a state of believing that there is a soul behind it, is there a difference? Question.
I would imagine that once you start programming military strategy and technology into it, that could be a different scenario as well.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think those are the things we need to be. We have to keep reminding ourselves there is no soul behind the mechanic, because you start programming it into things like military, and it will all be based on probabilities, and so it's all about what you ask them to do. They won't There won't be that human behind the button that chooses not to press it, or in other circumstances, just like the Snowden thing, there won't be something feeling like it's part of a bigger purpose.
I don't want to dominate the conversation, but uh, you caught the news on what uh, the Ukrainians did to the bombers in Russia. They destroyed 40 bombers that can't be replaced.
That's amazing, isn't it? I don't have a lot of details in that respect. I just caught the headlines, but it's sure a testimony to how we're living in a different era of war.
Yes, and the United States is learning from Ukraine.
Yeah. Well,
And
oh, go ahead, Chester.
that also kind of emphasizes the problem with communism is that there's no incentive to develop something unique. There's no benefit to it, and it just proves that motivation can be a tremendous impact on military.
Well, and I just think about how they got started using drones dropping like hand grenades and thought that was just so creative and such a different way to be dealing with warfare. Hello, Cheryl. Welcome.
Hi there.
It's good to see you. We were just talking about AIs like we do and their effect on military, and then we moved into the drone strike that Ukraine did on Russia. How impressive that is.
Yeah. Well, I'm just checking in. I was hoping maybe Sandy would be on here to wish her a happy birthday, but it's early in Alaska, isn't it?
It is, but I thought they were up and moving. I was hoping they were gonna join us. The but I guess she's not feeling too good. May not join us.
Well, that's a theme around here. Um, I have a sick spouse,
Oh no.
so I'm just checking in, and then we're off to the doctor. So yeah. Hope everybody's good. I did have a couple of topics, but I can save them till next week.
Okay. Well, very good. Out of curiosity, has Bill gotten to finish Andor?
No.
No.
No,
No.
he has not been. It's not
He
been a good week.
he
so-
must. He might if he's gonna be homesick. It's a good time to watch him.
Okay.
All
I will
right.
tell that. You guys take care.
Yeah. Tell him to get well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye. Well, that was a nice interruption. Yeah, I find that very impressive, and you're right. The United States is learning from. I think the United States has, when you think about our military drone program, it's been concentrated on replacing big warfare that was done by humans with big warfare that's done by drones, mechanics, automation. And what Ukraine is teaching us is that little warfare can be done through mechanics and automation, and it's very effective. In fact, it's very effective against big war. It's just the sheer amount of damage that they have been able to do with so little investment is amazing.
Yeah. What was interesting to me is the drones were commercially available units, $700 each, that were put in a shipping container. And that shipping container had basically the top of it could be remotely controlled to open up. And then the Russians were shown trying to destroy them. Now, what they were doing is standing on the ground, throwing rocks in the air at the top, hoping to hit a drone before it took off, not knowing really was somebody kind of near the top of the container telling him which end of the container to try to throw a rock at.
I didn't. I That's the first I've heard that. I didn't realize that was part of what was going on.
Oh, it was kind of almost hilarious. And then if you add to it, the latest one is the underwater drone that took out the major bridge that they built like in 5 or 8 years ago. Another use of a drone, but it's underwater demolitions.
Actually, they have cleaned out the Black Sea. Russia no longer controls the Black Sea because of their water drones have driven them out.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I understand from a reading yesterday is that the loss of these aircraft cannot be replaced and will have a major influence on Russia's strategic capabilities in terms of atomic capability. They destroyed somewhere between 30 and 40% of their long range bombing capability.
Trying to find some pictures of it because I really I've only read the headlines. I haven't really paid too much attention.
Oh, there's a picture. That's in the trailer. That's before they fly.
Oh, so is this. This is before they fly. They stock up on him, and oh, it's just a video presentation. Guess we gotta wait for the.
Russia. Tonight, Martha Raddatz here with new reporting on how Ukraine
I
pulled
just
this
want to see
off.
some visual.
Dozens of Russian warplanes set on fire.
Yeah, there you are.
Wow, that's just I, one of the themes that we're seeing, like in Top Gun and things of that nature, is there a need for these kinds of war devices anymore when we've got such intelligent devices like drones that, like, if they're this represents millions, maybe billions of dollars of destruction. That what you're saying, Chester, is Russia can't afford to replace that, at least not quickly.
That's right, and they can't, not even quickly. They just do not have the manufacturing capability to do it. Where we do, they had about 100 of these old warplanes, and we have something like 300, including some brand new ones and some even newer ones that are under construction. So it's quite a major event, not just for Ukraine, but for the world.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a real testimony to the way things are changing. Operation Spiderweb, over 40 warplanes.
The other interesting article in recent times was in the Guardian talking about this week Russia should reach 1 million casualties. And they go through some different sources of how they come up with the statistic that this might actually be a reasonable number, and how they're getting people to put up with the number of casualties by paying huge incentives to the people to join, and like 5 times the huge incentive if they're a conscripted, employee type worker, uh, keeping the inflow of people there, but still lacking the equipment to maintain, superiority, because they just have the number of people. They don't have the training. They have to back them up. It was in the Guardian, and a very interesting article on some of the details of the numbers of how they came about it, because there's nothing, that Russia says we did this. It's, using different analogies and how these numbers that they've come up with might be reasonable.
So, if I'm following what you're saying, David, correctly, is that their inscripted numbers are based on incentives that they're like signing bonuses.
Yes, they're paying huge signing bonuses, and they're recruiting. I can't remember. It's like 3,000 people. Was it per? I think per day, or something, or per week.
Russia is. Wow.
Russia is.
And is that Russians, or are they taking anybody? Are they like a foreign legion now?
They're paying the Foreign Legion like 5 times the local people, and most of the local people that they're getting are from the remote areas of the country, um, where there's more incentive for them to, even if they get killed, they've left the family something that's very worthwhile. So that the attitude of the people is that this is a good thing, even if you get killed.
Gotcha.
I think what I read yesterday is that the Russian people who are subject to being drafted are calling this life insurance because they're giving their life and for the money, and they're sometimes doing it for their families. Another thing I found interesting yesterday was that the only hour of negotiations that took place has to do with prisoner exchange. And a big part of that prisoner exchange are dead bodies that they're going to exchange.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
I thought it was interesting.
Is that a thing, Chester? I don't remember hearing about that in history. Is do we do a dead body exchange in wartime?
Uh, they're doing that in not that I know of. As far as I know, in World War II, they buried they buried each other's soldiers.
That's kind of the way I think about it. I'm definitely not the history guy you are. I've barely paid any attention. It's not
But
one of my topics.
this caught my attention yesterday because they were talking about a horrendous number of bodies that are going to be exchanged.
Wow, that's very interesting.
And it's also interesting, how do they keep all those refrigerated?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, and how long have they been around? Like, how do
Right.
you keep them refrigerated? But yeah, how long is? Wow, yeah, the logistics and all that seem really crazy.
Of course, my comment would be, what makes you think they are keeping them refrigerated?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they may just be body bags.
Yeah.
Well, and in that respect, I you just think you'd agree mutually. It'd be easier to exchange lists than bodies.
I don't know.
It's crazy this day and age to be watching wars play out. It's it's definitely it's new to me. I feel like I grew up. There definitely were conflicts, but this was just so blatant. This conflict between them, and then to watch as they use this modern age of technology.
It's also interesting to read a lot on China and what's happening over in China, which is very difficult to get information because they're so they pervert the information or the news so badly.
Well,
But there's
oh, I'm sorry,
real
Chester.
problems surfacing over there.
Well, I'm not sure what you're getting at. Is what's has surfacing over there that's a concern.
Well, mostly what is surfacing is their economic situation is deteriorating so badly, and they have incurred so much debt in building so many apartments and so much real estate that they're worse off than the United States in terms of debt. Their debt is something like 250% of their gross domestic product, which is going down, and they won't they will no longer reveal their unemployment numbers.
And here I'm under the impression that it's believed their economy is growing at twice the rate of the United States economy.
Well, it was, but it's no longer.
No, recently it's changed. When when we look at this Ukraine drone attack, one of the first things that comes to mind for me is where do they get their drones? Because I would assume they came from China. And what's
I
the
think they make them. I think they make them in Ukraine.
well, even making them, they need to make them out of parts, and those parts have to be fabricated from somewhere. It's I guess the point I was going to make was that because we have so much production going on in these other countries, what's the relationship between Russia and China right? I mean, is it feasible to think that they could be building drones with units that could be compromised in the future simply because of a political relationship with another country?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, it's a rhetorical question. I don't expect to have an answer for, but I think it's food for thought when you think about where we're going with all this. It's kind of like a dystopian novel where you're running an attack against a country, but that country has a relationship with a manufacturer of a controller that's been used in the production of your equipment. so it just gets shut off.
There has occurred with this particular war major changes in the way wars in the future will be fought.
Well, and just sticking with the drone theme, you're absolutely right. And to add to that, sticking with the drone theme, if you the drones that were coming out of China, what was the name of that? JI or JDI, IDJ? They were the big drone manufacturer for the last few years. Everybody, and they're manufacturers and provide like geofencing in these drones so that you take it, it's your drone, you're flying around, but it can only go so high in space. It can only go over, I guess, what would be considered approved areas. Basically, you can't fly over airports, and that's all controlled by the manufacturer's instructions. It seems reasonable to think they could also control whether they even fly at all. I don't know. I'm just speculating on stuff. I am looking over our document. Unless somebody has another topic, I'm here at the bed and breakfast. If you're interested in coming to Alaska, we're filling up quick. Smartphones for Dummies is still a thing. If you're looking for the latest on that, it's down at the bottom of this document. VPNs, recently Surfshark and Nord have become the ones that we're kind of recommending. People are having good experiences. Surfshark, from what I've been told, is cheaper than NordVPN. But they're owned by the same company. They're both Nord products. And Surfshark we're just recently looking at because Linda had a question about being able to do a Roku. And Surfshark there's documentation showing that will work with the Roku. So yeah, those are the main topics I keep at the top of this document, and I've provided a few topics here that I thought would be interesting. One that I think may affect all of us, especially if you've got old Fire TV equipment, is Netflix is choosing to drop support for their first generation Amazon Fire TV devices. I believe what this would mean is that only the Netflix app would not be available on first gen devices. If you didn't get an email about this, you can check your device is a first gen. Go into your Fire Stick or your Fire TV under your settings. There will be an icon there that says My Fire TV. Click on that, there'll be an about, and if you click on the about, it will give you detail about what generation your Fire Stick or Fire TV. And so these are devices, I mean, they started releasing devices almost 10 years ago. So these devices have been around for a long time, and they're just now losing support by Netflix. So I suspect, I mean, Amazon hasn't thing about dropping support for these. So I suspect Prime will still be working on these devices, as well as other apps that choose to support the first. I'm thinking Streamio and Kodi may be those apps as well. So I don't think this is telling you that your current Fire is unusable, but it is unusable for Netflix. I think this happens today. I think I read in here, yeah, June 3rd, when they're going to cut off these old devices from Netflix. Again, Netflix. I would expect your old device to turn on and look normal until you try and use whatever the latest iteration is. At the same time, there are app stores out there that will provide a copy of Netflix. I've been using it to provide an app to an old Chinese knockoff streaming box that I keep in my office in Mexico. Been very successful continuing to use a version of Netflix that isn't intended to be authorized. I suspect that would be possible on a Fire Stick. Well, but what this article also says is there's a very good chance if you've got one of these devices that you qualify for a discount on their latest devices. You might look into that, just take advantage of that if you have a first-gen device. Amazon knows every device you have from them because you can't use it without being logged into your Amazon account. So it's aware of your products and it can a special discount price because you're replacing Amazon has an incentive to replace these devices because they're moving forward with this idea of putting their own operating system in these devices, which is a concern to me because I am an active Streamio and Kodi user. If they put their own operating system in it, I may not be able to run those programs. Right now, it's there's their own software in that it is a fork of Android that is devices. Android being open source software means that there are certain things they just can't lock down. And one of those is the ability to run Android software that comes where other than Amazon Store, the App Store. But any of you that have owned a Samsung TV are probably aware of the operating system that they run and how their app store is limited to just Samsung software. That's essentially the direction that Amazon is going with their hardware. Imagine it'll continue to be some of the cheapest and best streaming equipment out there, but soon it will be blocked from anything other than authorized software from Amazon.
Okay, I think I'm almost there.
Hey, look at that. Hey, Pop. Welcome.
Hi. We've been having a lot of problems this morning here, Scott.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm gonna put your mother on this my computer.
All right. There we go.
Okay. I don't know how to do these later.
Hey. That's our sunroom. And there's Mom.
Yes, Mom doesn't want to be seen, and I can't remember how to turn off the computer. Even. I mean, the picture. Oh, there it is.
Well, happy birthday, Mom.
Thanks. I'm a fish. I'm. Okay, there we go. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you and not see you. I think that's the way you want it.
Yeah, that's the way I need it this morning. Hello, everyone. It looks like there's other people on here who don't want to be seen too.
Yes, welcome. You've caught us. We were just talking about how Netflix is gonna start dropping. Well, today, in fact, happy birthday. The Fire Stick first generations are no longer going to be supported by Netflix. That's all. That's what we were on. You've missed Ukrainian drones, but you can always go back to the.
Amazing. I'll just say, I think it's amazing. They are so smart. Not everyone may agree with that, but
No, I think we just had a discussion about how impressive it is the amount of damage they've been able to cause with such a
yeah.
minimal amount of technology. Reshaping warfare. Wait, and I was just talking about the Fire Stick. If you guys might even own one of these first generation Fire Stick, but Netflix is going to drop support for it. I don't think that means these sticks are unusable. It's just unusable for Netflix. So if that is the main option, main thing that you go to in your first generation Fire Stick, and you are looking to upgrade. And I was just starting to say that in this article, they talk about Amazon giving discounts to some people if they want to upgrade. They want to get out of the first gen and get into the latest equipment. And Amazon has an incentive to do this because they want to be providing their latest equipment, because their latest equipment will be ready for the transition to their own operating, which won't be based on Android, which will kind of lock us into whatever was authorized running on the equipment. I know that there's a number of San Carlos people out there that use Radiosity and programs like Kodi, Streamio, and I suspect as we move into the future, if Amazon is successful in moving their customer base to a new operating system on their latest equipment, then we're going to lose access to those kinds of programs, because those programs are based on the Android operating system, which is open source. As long as the Fire Stick is based on the Android operating system, ability to put that, install and use programs. Amazon makes the shift to their own operating system, we're going to lose the ability to have control over those softwares. So, all that being said, in a nutshell, I think the first gen stick might be worth hanging on to if you're already using it in that capacity, using Streamio or Radiosity. That might just end up being your Radiosity device. And at the same time, the Amazon 4K Fire Stick Max is an amazing piece of equipment that is still running on Android. I recommend it all the time. I think for its price and performance, you can't beat. I would look for an opportunity to buy. There was a discount if they would give me a coupon because I'm a Amazon stick owner. They realize good opportunity to get me into another stick. I would jump on that because they are reasonably priced and incredibly powerful. 4K. What else do we have going on? Back to. We've talked a lot about messaging. Oh, let me just say, I saw the warning go off. If anybody sees our countdown, or if we end up getting disconnected because I'm not paying code.
12 minutes.
12 minutes. Where are you? See, how come I can't see it? I can't find it. It's here somewhere. Anyway, that's not what I'm. So we've talked about messaging apps in the past. In fact, I don't have it on this list, but there's also WhatsApp is announced that they're going to usernames. So finally, you'll be able to interact on WhatsApp with the same encryption and privacy that WhatsApp has always had, but you won't have to reveal your phone number, which has been a sore point for some folks. Secure, encrypted, available everywhere. However, the people you interact with do get copies of your phone number. That's the way. WhatsApp will be adding username so that your phone number does not need to be revealed to other parties, which I think is a good thing. That's an improvement. When you think about the sheer number of places outside the United States that use WhatsApp for doing business, specifically for doing business, all throughout Mexico, you find for sale signs, WhatsApp reference, businesses out there with WhatsApp reference. Absolutely the way that people do business outside the United States. The phone number thing becomes an issue because it's more than your WhatsApp, it's your phone. And so by revealing that phone number in any circumstance, reveals an active number that can reach solicitations by vocal calls or text messages. That step on WhatsApp's part will make us more secure, or supposed by allowing us not to reacting. That is not the article I brought up. It's just was triggered in my mind as I'm bringing up this article, which also has to do with messaging app Signal. We've talked about Signal in the past. And the Windows 11 recall system, which for the life of me, I couldn't remember the name of a couple of weeks. But recall, if you've been paying attention, is a system of screenshotting built into Windows 11 that has recently been rolled out once again. Windows 11 with computers that support Copilot. Or Windows 11 plus Copilot, I think their brand, or Windows plus Copilot. The Copilot computers are few and far between. They are the ones that have the extra neural processors, AI CPUs, that allow you to do more onboard processing. We started out this meeting talking about how it's AI only. These are the language learning models, and this is the hardware that makes those models so much more performative in a local computer, basically one sitting in front of you. And these are all based on the RISC-based use. So this is a subset of computers out there, but they do support this latest feature, and this latest feature will be included in Windows 11 as we go forward. We're just in the midst of a transition from the old 86, 64-bit processing to the new RISC architecture of the future, which include these kinds of neural processors. So I guess in a nutshell, what I'm saying is this is very interesting to pay attention to, but it's not affecting any of us yet. Even if you have Windows 11 with all the updates, I don't believe you have recall, because I don't believe you yet have one of these computers that supports this kind of process. You do not yet have a computer that would be categorized as plus Copilot. You're not able to take it. This recall feature is very controversial because the idea, and it was on by default when they released it, because what it does is it's periodically taking screenshots of your Windows session, feeding those screenshots to an LLM, and creating databases of text that's been read off the screen and pictures that have been found on the screen. Use the LLM to describe what these things are about, and the idea is that you wrap all your Windows experience into this model that can be probed for information. The way that people will use this stuff is when they can't find information, or they're trying to literally recall information across their screen throughout the week. I can imagine you had a chat message from your son giving you the phone number that you're supposed to use to open the garage door when you show up, and you have forgotten where that came from, because we get this information everywhere. We get it on our phone, we get it in our text messages, we get it on voicemail. And the idea of recall is that if it popped up on your screen, then it's probably in that ball of information, and you would be able to go and ask. It would use the language model to analyze that ball of data and spit back to you what it's found. There's a few products on the market like this right now. There's some pendants that you can wear. That the one I've been hearing about the most recently, I think it's called wear this thing on your chest, and it just records everything that's happening in your life, the conversations you have, your geolocation, the things that it hears in the ambience, and it tries to form this summary, kind of like a daily diary you can return back to, have a summary of what your day was, fit back, and that data can be manipulated and worked into whatever form that it needs. This is the Windows 11 idea of that, of having a personal assistant that has a photographic memory of everything that you've done in the computer, so that you can go back to it later, ask for that information. I bet you're imagining, as I'm describing this, you can see practical applications for this and privacy. One of the big concerns is the offloading of all of data ending up in the cloud. For Microsoft services account, a 365 account. It puts a whole lot of data out there that could be compromised hacking. Those balls of data, like the password lists, they never go away. Continue to propagate out there on the internet, whether people can get into them or not. They're continually being hammered at to try and get in. What Signal has done, all of this background, speculating on technology as we have it at the moment, in this article is to say that Signal, as a messaging, sees this as a security issue. The fact that somebody could be running the Windows desktop Signal app, reading chat messages with the intention for this to be completely private, encrypted, and secure. And because it is popped up on your screen in Windows, it will get sucked into Windows 11 recall system. And so Signal has used a system in Windows 11, which has been around since, I think, Windows Vista. It's a DRM system, and that in itself is a good reason to pay attention. Probably we're unaware of this system existing. It's the system that's used so you can't take screenshots of, say, Netflix video. If you've ever wondered why you can't just open up a web browser and watch a movie on Netflix and record it, because Windows, since Windows Vista, has had a DRM blocking system. And all Netflix has to do is click that bit on, and now you can't take screen. And that's essentially what Signal is. The Signal app is by default flipping on the DRM, so that if you're looking at your Signal app and reading messages, those are captured as black screens on the Windows 11 recall system. It is something that you can turn off if you want to get your Signal messages into the recall system. Well, it looks like we've got under a minute. I am going to switch over to our other meet that we continue. You guys can funnel over into that one. Up now, gosh, this all flows on the Mac. Chester, Ball. Oh, Chester. Put a link in our other chat if that helps. It takes you to the document. You'll find the second. Oh, here, I'll just. Got Dave and Fred coming over. Let me just stick the. Oh, late. That meat's gone. Now we're committed to this one. Dad makes. So I think that in itself is an interesting reason to read this article because, oh, who'd we lose? We lost Fred. Because I had forgotten about the DRM built into the Windows. And this document is, this article is actually chastising Microsoft for not allowing more granular controls over this feature. And the Signal developers are disappointed that this is the only option instead of having multiple options for addressing this kind of, giving their users more control over how privacy work in this aspect. I was thinking about this morning, and I think what they're really getting at is some kind of control that would allow you to.
I think your sound is off.
Oh, you can't hear me? Testing 1, 2. Okay, give me 1 second. Somebody is knocking on my door. Give me 1 second. Oh, hi. Wait. I haven't. The back room there. Sorry, guys. We have cleaners that have showed up. We're still doing bed and breakfast around here. Can you hear me okay? Oh no, it's not coming through, is it? Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Hear me through there? Can you hear me through here? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what happened in that respect. We're still doing bed and breakfast around here, so we were having people showing up at my door, getting ready to helping us clean and get. And there's Fred. Fred, did you leave because you couldn't hear me? Because I think it was my fault. I think I'm working now.
No, I got a phone call.
Oh, okay. Well, we're talking about Signal, and one of the things I find fascinating about this article is I'd forgotten that DRM was included in Windows. The DRM system is one that would prevent you from recording a Netflix video, for example. This is the example I'm using. You go to Netflix on your web browser and you decide to screen capture it. You can't do that. You end up with a black screen. And Signal has invoked that by default in their desktop app. And this article is really arguing that Windows or Microsoft should be including more granular control on this Windows 11 recall feature because they don't have a lot of options. And as I think about what Signal's developers might be looking for, I think they would like to be able to check mark conversations that should not be included in Windows 11 recall, or vice versa, opt in or opt out. But right now, there is no such thing for the developers to work with. There's no API, application programming interface, which is what all developers rely on to get access to those controls that might affect the application developing. In this case, it's an all or nothing. And it's news because Signal's saying, okay, if it's all or nothing, we're going to say nothing. We're going to turn it off by default. Our users can turn it on, but they really need a lot more control over how this works. This recall is good to know about because it really is setting a culture for what we expect from our devices. This is an idea. The recall idea is one where you are trusting your computer to be in charge of all the characteristics that would allow someone to get to analyze the data. I guess that's what it comes down to, is they're using these to analyze the data created and used by your. A while back, especially on the Mac platform, it was encouraged that you would not file or organize your file. The paradigm of a filing cabinet was going away, specifically on the iOS devices. The idea that you would just be creating and that data would be stored and revealed to you when you needed it. It was discovered almost automagically. And your need to folder something inside a folder so that you could find it later, that file cabinet paradigm was going away. Recall is kind of the most modern version of that kind of thinking, where you can have all these activities that you've done across your device, so much so that you as a human have forgotten or misplaced that information. And by choosing to be part of this recall idea, you're creating this thing that you can approach with questions, help you discover that information that has been on your device before, but you as a human have misplaced it. You can't remember what it's called or where it was or what date. So I think you can see the advantages to such a system. At the same time, it's asking us to reevaluate our ideas of privacy and security. If you understand what I mean, we have to be open to the idea that all of everything we do is being recorded in perpetuity for posterity, and that abuse can come along with that. Kind of like you write journals, you're a diary or journal writer, and you leave those on a shelf. At some point, even if it's in your house under lock and key, they're still there. Someone can get past your lock and key, they've got all your information. It's a diary. It's your digital diary of your activities, data that comes to life. And that's a pretty powerful thing. I'm glad that they have not figured out a way yet to make recall available on just your average Windows computer. I think we would be dealing with issues much more quickly that give us time to think about these. Since it's only Copilot plus PCs, that's a really small niche of computers out there in the world. Hey, Fred.
Yes.
You sound like you're around a church.
Now, grandfather clock.
Oh, okay.
I do have, since you brought it up, I have been trying to download a hard drive into my new iPhone and trying to figure out how to do it.
You're talking about a cloud drive? You're trying to get information off of some service?
No, it's a physical hard drive.
What are you trying to move to your iPhone? Is it pictures or music?
About 80 gig worth of old time radio.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Have you picked a third-party audio program? Or you
I have.
Go ahead.
I have not.
So I've got a feeling, and I'm just going off of my experience, I've got a feeling that unless you're using a third-party audio program that supports files and folders, I know that's the reason I'm talking about. The only way that you're going to be able to listen to it on your iDevice, for you to get it into iTunes, categorize it either as podcasts or music and then have it synchronize over to the device with a cable. Actually, I think
Cable?
you can synchronize it Wi-Fi, but you need a computer in between that hard drive.
Cable I've got, and it plugs into my iPad that I'm on right now. Except I don't know how to get it over.
Yeah, I think that you could do it that way. And again, I'm just speculating because I haven't done this. I think you could use the folder app or the files app. You could drag that over to your storage, but I do not believe the music app is going to see it because it's not part of the music. And the only hope of being able to see it when you've done that kind of activity, I think, would be from a third party music app.
Suggestion?
Uh, there was a jukebox app. You know what? First of all, I'm going to ask. This will be our AI to listen to audio files on my transfer. Let's just see what Gemini. Ways trans. That's. I mean, it looks like 5 different ways there. Yeah, 3 different ways to iCloud storage, download for offline. Third party file manager. Oh, yeah, at least the AI is reaffirming what I believe. Because it is, if you use iTunes, and I've done this before for like audiobooks, you bring them into iTunes on your Macintosh. They're organized in the library. You set the media type. I think in this case you would set them podcast. I guess they could be as as music, but the important thing is they're recognized by the iTunes library, iTunes, to synchronize them over to your iPhone, and they will pop up in that category, whatever media. The only other option is if you use something like cloud storage, we're looking at right here, that makes sense. You could get to it in the cloud through like a OneDrive or a Google Drive or a Dropbox. Each one of those has its own proper audio player. So pull it out of your cloud storage into memory, and you're using the Google Drive app or the OneDrive app. Their capacity. Listen to that. Not as convenient as having it as part of your library. And then the other option would be to use something like a VLC. Mobile is the This is what they use as an example. I don't think that's the best app. Something. There was one that I can't remember the name of now. We may have to readdress it because my mind's an absolute blank. But there's a couple of different apps for listening to music and podcasts that are available on the iPhone platform that you might find the most convenient solution for you to connect the hard drive to your iPhone, download the folder, and then the third-party app to be able to listen from that. You don't have to deal with the iTunes library on your phone. Dealt with files stored on you.
That would be perfect.
So I think that's what you're looking for, but I don't have a recommendation for the app.
Well, think about it between now and next week.
All right. I will. And there is so much activity all of a sudden happening around my place. I think I may have to let you guys go. I
Okay.
think the only thing that we didn't hit that I thought was interesting, and it's happening next week, happening before our next meeting, is the Worldwide Developers Conference happening for Apple. And what's interesting about this is they are bringing all their naming schemes in years. So right now some people are on iOS 18. It's going to bump up instead of to iOS 19, and bump up to iOS 26. These names are going to be used on Apple devices, the Apple TV, the iPad, the iPhone. Oh, wow, I didn't see that. Watch OS, Mac OS, iPad OS, TV OS, all of them are going to be called 26 in reference to the year, but in reference to the year that we will be approaching, not the year that they're released in. Very similar to the way vehicles are released in our auto market right now, where you're buying latest Toyota 26 in 2025. That's how Apple is going to do this. They use the example of the Vision Pro is going to have the most dramatic version change. It's going to go from Vision OS 2 to Vision OS 26. Just so you're in the know. I don't think it's going to make any difference to anything. It's just we're going to stop referring to iOS 17, iOS 18, iOS 19. We're going to start referring to iOS 26. And every time you hear whatever product it is, an Apple Watch, an Apple TV, iPad, your MacBook computer, it's all going to be 26, referring to the year we're going into. This is going to be announced, and there'll be more information about it this week. I think that their conference is on the 9th, as that's, yeah, June 9th. Yeah, so Monday, June 9th, we're having a worldwide developers conference, and so we have a meeting the following day, Tuesday, and we'll be able to discuss what happened at it. Looks like Chester's already left us. I think I'm shutting down this meeting. Dave, Fred, you got anything to add, or forever hold your
No.
peace till next week?
Time for you to quit.
It's
This is your D&B comes first.
all right. Fred, you got anything to add?
Nope. Have a good week. Hope your mother has a great birthday.
Thank you. You guys have a great week too, and until next Tuesday, tech on.
See you next week.